So my name is Juliana Voloshina, and today we'll be having an interview based just on the questions I collected from the Ukrainian community. So before our interview, I shared on my social media channels that we will be having this interview if somebody has some questions to you, and I got a couple of questions, and I organized them, collected them, and now I will be asking those questions that basically Ukrainian community would like to know answers for them, okay? So the first question is, can you talk about the justice budget this year and how this year's budget will support Albertans accessing the justice system?
Well, wonderful question, and thank you for having me here. We just announced Budget 2025, and it really is a great budget for Alberta Justice. It is a budget that has seen the greatest or the highest number, the highest amount that we've ever seen in Alberta Justice. It is intended to help us expand and modernize our overall services in Alberta's courtrooms. It will increase our staff FTEs to the highest level ever, and it'll provide us with the funding that we need to support our judiciary so that Albertans can receive a much faster access to justice. This includes a $12.7 million increase to court and justice services, and so that'll allow us to get some funding for the expansion of judges, support staff, our courthouses, and I think one of the best things that we brought forward in recent memory, the family justice strategy. We're also increasing funding to our Alberta Crown Prosecution Service, a $7.3 million increase, and we'll be able to establish a human trafficking unit. This is a real problem here in Alberta, and I think it's a problem all across North America, and we really need to start tackling this issue with as much resources as we can. And then finally, we've got some other increases, $5.7 million to the Legal Services Division, which is really our internal civil crown office, and that will help us hire more lawyers and deal with the challenges, both constitutional and other legal challenges that are coming forward that Alberta has to deal with. We've increased funding to a brand new Safe Roads program, which is now being led by Alberta Justice. This will help keep impaired drivers off of our roads. The Safe Roads program has some of the strongest penalties, I should say, for impaired drivers in the entire country. And then finally, and I think really relevant to your community and many diverse communities across the province, we're increasing funding to the Human Rights Education Multiculturalism Fund, and that will help fund additional resources for education and programs aimed at helping Albertans understand what their rights are and what they can do if something happens to those rights.
Thank you so much for so wide answer. And I actually have a couple of additional questions based on your answer. We will go step by step, but we will go slowly, like based on the question my community asked, and some of them I will ask later a bit. So next questions. Can Ukrainians in Alberta rely on free legal aid? This is actually something that you mentioned right now. And where should they turn to in case some legal issues?
Well, certainly. Thank you. We do have a very robust and well-funded and well-supported legal aid system in this province. When I was first elected, the Premier issued a mandate letter to me outlining what she would like to see me achieve based on what we've heard and based on what we were elected for. And one of those was to make sure that Albertans had as much access to justice as possible. And that word, access to justice, continues to come up time and time again when I'm dealing with my mandate. One of the most fundamental things that I think provides for a strong access to justice in this province is really a strong and robust legal aid system. And so what we did is that we looked at what we could do with legal aid. One of the first things that we did was that we increased the eligibility guidelines. We increased the ability for more Albertans to access free legal aid. The idea here is that if we have better eligibility guidelines, if we have an ability for more Albertans to access it, it'll allow more people to access legal aid in this province. And I think that's very important. The other thing that we did is that we increased the tariffs. And what that means is that we've increased the money that we pay to lawyers who handle legal aid on behalf of Albertans. We want great lawyers to represent Albertans. And the way to do that is to make sure that they're adequately paid. So we increased our budget when it came to funding our lawyers, and we think that we've seen a great increase in the number of lawyers willing to take these files and better quality legal services. So Albertans can always, the Ukrainian community and all Albertans can always depend on having a strong and robust legal aid system. The other thing that I think is equally important is that we've increased our funding to a number of agencies, organizations, not-for-profits, to make sure that all of the wraparound services, the support services that Albertans need is available to them. We, in Budget 2025, we increased the funding to our interpretation services because we know that there are Albertans from all across the world who live here. And we're very happy and proud that they've chosen Alberta to come and raise their families. But we also know that dealing with the legal system can be complex. It can be difficult. It can be challenging for a newcomer. And so making sure that we have the supports available to have our individuals here in Alberta access all types of services, including interpretation services, so that they can understand in their own languages what is happening is really important to me. I come from a background, my parents came from another country. I know how challenging it is sometimes to deal with things when you're not from this country, or you weren't born in this country, I should say. And I really think it's important to give everybody an equal opportunity because justice to me means equality, it means equity, it means fairness. And if we make sure that the people in this province are well, they have all the tools that they need, well supported in everything that they do with respect to our justice system, I can sleep well knowing that we've done everything we can to make sure that all Albertans are well represented.
Thank you so much for this reply, actually, and for all the initiatives that you do. To be a bit more practical, if somebody needs some help, free help, where do they go? Do they go to the private lawyers and they say we would like to have it because government covers it for us, or there is some special dedicated places where they should go?
Well, there are multiple resources all across the province for legal advice. And one of those is, of course, the legal aid system that we have. The other one is that we have a multitude of not-for-profit agencies in this province that also provide support services. One of the things that comes to mind is the Student Legal Assistance Program, and that is offered at the U of C, for example, where student lawyers or young lawyers who are in law school, supervised by a lawyer, will be able to provide legal advice to people who are looking for that advice. The other thing that we have are legal clinics all across this province, Calgary Legal Guidance, for example, or Edmonton. There's a Red Deer Clinic as well, and a number of other ones that provide legal services for individuals here in this province, many of which are staffed by volunteer lawyers who are currently practicing in the province and want to do some volunteer and pro bono work for the public. And so there are those. We also recently unveiled a community justice grant where we have provided a number of different organizations with funding so that they can offer community justice initiatives in their communities. And we've sort of made sure that spreads all across the province. So the funding that we made sure that the organizations offered their services throughout the province. And then finally, we have what's called the Restorative Justice Grant. And that was just recently announced, whereby a number of organizations all across this province also received funding so that they could develop initiatives, education programs, and best practices when it came to restorative justice. What that means is rather than going to a traditional courtroom, there are organizations that are developing programs that will help achieve justice in different ways. This could mean for example, in our Indigenous communities, the opportunity for the victim and the accused to sit down together in a safe place and resolve their issues along with elders in the community, for example. It could mean a multitude of other things, but the idea is that we don't have to solve everything in a courtroom. We can solve things through mediators. We can solve things through programs. We can solve issues through diversion programs, which take things out of the courtroom, but still hold people accountable. And I think that that's just one way that we're delivering justice in this province. in a unique way.
And it's really amazing. And I see you have so wide resources, basically what to offer to people. And can I ask you, please, maybe that after this interview, if it's possible to ask, that Heather would prepare for me the list of these possibilities where Ukrainians would able, if they have some needs, to have this free legal support, legal advice, where can they go? So to make this interview very useful for them, you know, that this is what we talked about, this is program available for you, and then they would be able to proceed.
You know what? I would be happy to get something like that to you. I can tell you that you're going to see a very long list because we have some great organizations. We have some great not-for-profits. We've got so many resources in this province. And I think that, if I can do my part to help educate Albertans about what those programs are, where they are, and what they offer, I think that would be a great idea. Thank you for that.
I think it would be amazing because I'm the biggest media in the province here for the Ukrainian community. So this is basically, you say, for the whole community information about it.
So, I would love to do my part. Thank you for that idea.
Very good. So let's do it. Let's work this cooperation. It will be very useful for people to know this thing. Okay, next question. We cover this question is done and we continue. So recently there has been increasing concern about crime rates in Canada. What work is being done by Альберта police to ensure safety, especially for new immigrants?
Thank you for that. You mentioned it exactly correctly. We've had calls for increased penalties and stronger reforms all across the country. This is not a problem that only Albertans have identified, though we've been saying for years that the bail laws in this country are way too soft. And the penalties and the sentencing in this country needs serious reform. We know that all provinces are struggling with this problem. I want to take you back just a little bit to when I was first appointed. I was appointed into this role. I was very humbled and very honored to be in this role. That happened in June of 2023. In October of 2023, we went to what we call a federal, provincial, and territorial meeting of all justice ministers and public safety ministers throughout the country. And we do this every year. And we voiced our concerns. There were a number of concerns. We said we don't have adequate judges. We don't have enough. We need more judges. We also need bail reform. We need to be able to hold people accountable, and we need stronger bail policies in this country. We also need stronger sentencing in this country. We need to give judges the tools that they need to impose sentences on people who commit serious crimes where they're held accountable. Every single justice minister in the country voiced concerns the same way. We then came back in October of 2024 and we repeated these calls. But here's the good news. Just recently, we were able to report that we had a full complement of King's Bench justices appointed to Alberta. We have 82 spots and we have 82 judges. This is the first time in recent memory that I can remember that we were in this position. So I'm very happy about that. And I think that had a lot to do with our continued advocacy, our continued pressure, and people all across the province and all across the country saying, get us these judges. We need to be able to hold people accountable. So that's important. The other thing is we've been calling on the federal government to make changes, to reintroduce what we used to have, mandatory minimum sentences. So if you commit a serious crime, let's say it's related to fentanyl trafficking, for example, serious drug crimes, serious weapons crimes, we want to see mandatory minimum sentences. If you are a drug trafficker of fentanyl and fentanyl is killing thousands of people, we want you to be held accountable and we want serious consequences. We think that's the way to making sure that people are held accountable. And this is what we've been advocating for since the very beginning.
Thank you so much for all of these initiatives that you do. Next question is actually a very important question. And recently on our social media, I see that it's very often people are causing based on this reason. And it's actually very important to know your opinion about it and to your answer for this problem. So Canada has strong laws protecting the rights of women and families. particularly in case of domestic violence. What programs exist in Alberta to support victims of domestic violence, especially among new immigrants? Very often new immigrants, especially Ukrainians who doesn't know so well, as you said, the system here, the law and language, they don't know what to do in such cases. What exists for them here in the province?
Yeah, no, this is an extremely important issue, and I fully recognize not only that it is important, but that it is underreported as well. We know that there are people who typically don't report issues of domestic violence and intimate partner violence as well. I want to talk a little bit more about some of the advocacy that we've done, which has resulted in some good news. We have advocated for the stronger bail reform policies. We saw the federal government introduce Bill C-48, which creates what we call a reverse onus obligation. Right now, if somebody is charged with a crime and they go to a bail hearing, it is up to our Crown prosecutors to argue why that individual should not be released on bail. Bill C-48 does create a reverse onus, which means that the individual charged, in some cases, will need to prove why that individual should be released rather than having our Crown prove it. It makes for a more difficult process because now that individual who's charged bears the responsibility of telling the judge why he or she should be released. The great news is that some of that includes intimate partner violence crimes. And so if there is a crime committed against an intimate partner, domestic violence, there are many different mechanisms available that will make things a little bit, I hope, a little bit more difficult for those people to be released on bail. The second thing is that we've been, as a government, supporting the agencies and services that provide support to families going through domestic violence. We know about Homefront. Homefront is an agency that provides support for victims of domestic violence. And I think that we continue to provide them with the funding and the resources to help them reach out to men and women who are victims of domestic violence. They are a fundamental piece within our court system. They appear on behalf of, or they assist with victims, both within the courthouse and outside of the courthouse. And we do that for a number of organizations across the province. The other thing that I should tell you is this: we are developing programs to help judges or potential future judges learn about intimate partner violence, sexual violence, and domestic violence. And this is very important for me. If I'm going to name an individual, recommend an individual to become a judge, I want that individual to demonstrate that they understand what intimate partner violence is, or what sexual violence is, or what domestic violence is. I want them to be able to confirm to me that they have taken the time to learn about this. And so I'm currently developing policies around that. The idea being that if we're going to name somebody or recommend somebody to executive council to become a judge, that they need to demonstrate that they've taken the time to familiarize themselves with these problems, with the problems of society that you're talking about, and also to be able to make important decisions, knowing that they have the background to do this. This is really important to me. I want everybody who is in a position like a judge to be able to make decisions, to know as much about it as possible. I'll say one last thing. The court itself has ongoing training when it comes to these areas as well. And so it doesn't stop when somebody becomes a judge. Over and over and over again, you'll find that judges are taking training to improve their understanding of society, of the important issues that we're all dealing with. And much of that includes training in the areas of domestic violence and sexual violence as well.
Thank you so much for all of the initiatives, and to be again very practical and very useful for people. Very often I see, for example, some women anonymously writes in the group that something happened, where to go. She doesn't know where to go. She doesn't know where to seek for some help. And she's just looking that someone from the community would take her for one night, and she doesn't know what to do then. Yeah. Many of them, they're simply scared even to write or to post something in the groups.
Juliana, can I say something really quickly? Because I do want to address those that are resorting to Facebook to try to get advice, we have a very comprehensive system available to people who need temporary housing, who need more permanent resources. You know, we need people in all communities to understand that there are safe places to go if you need to go somewhere. I would again offer, and maybe you were about to ask me.
Exactly, this is what I wanted to ask you about. If Heather can send me the list where those people can go to seek for the help.
I will try to put together and compile something for you that you might be able to share with members of your community so that they do have those resources, including where they are and how to reach out to them themselves. Going on Facebook is never the best place to get legal advice, and I would say to you that I will do everything that I can to make sure that the victims of domestic violence, whether it's men or women, have the access and the resources that they need to be able to seek help as quickly as possible.
I would say this is the most important question for me in this case, because when I read those messages in our community, this is really painful, and you think, how can you help that person, especially if that person somewhere in a different city. So if only this useful thing we can take out of this interview, but we took so many nice things, it would be the most important for the community, because people will know where to run for the help. And that help exists.
It's very important to me as well. I want families to feel safe in our province. I want them to feel welcomed here. And I want them to know that there is help out there if they need it. And again, I'll do whatever I can to work with you so that you can communicate that to your community and everyone else.
Thank you so much, Minister. I really appreciate it. Next question. Let's go.
Okay.
We talked a bit about courts, so now will be the question about courts. Ensuring legal matters are resolving quickly is crucial for improving access to justice for Albertans. Can you talk about how you are increasing capacity in courts? You mentioned a bit about it already.
Of course. One of the things that we're looking at is, how do we move matters through the court system quicker and less stressful? And more cost effective, because we have to be aware that, sometimes these court processes can be stressful and they can be very expensive. What we've done is we have in Budget 2025, we've increased funding to our 3 courts, the Court of King's Bench, the Court of Appeal, and the Alberta Court of Justice by $8.3 million. We think that this is going to lead to an increase in the number of support staff and the increase in the number of judges that will be able to handle and hear cases. But more importantly than that, just before we go into, the courtroom, I want to tell you about some of the things that we're doing outside of the courtroom, because I think we can solve a lot of problems without having families go to court. And that's why we've unveiled the family justice strategy. I worked in family law for many years, and I know how difficult and how challenging family law can be, not only on the partners, but also on the children as well. And so what we thought about was, how can we create a system that does not put families in a courtroom all the time? And the idea here is that we can probably achieve a lot of good work by introducing sort of pre-court services. One of those is the idea that family law mediators can meet with families before they go to court and try to resolve some of the differences, so that families have the opportunity to be heard, and also to not have to go to court and have somebody make that decision for them. The other thing that we have and we provide for Albertans is the family law counselors, and these are highly skilled and trained people who can sit down with the family informally and try to resolve those differences, try to bring the heat level down a little bit, try to solve some of the issues. And we hope, I always say this, I hope that I can solve all of the family law issues before families go to court. But even if we solve half of them, even if we solve a quarter of them, that means less issues for our courts to have to deal with. And to go back to your question and why I bring this up, is because if the courts are going to be dealing with half of the problems because they've already been resolved in the pre-court services, then that frees up our courts for other matters. And that's how we improve access to justice. Less matters going to court means more time that the judges have to deal with matters that have to go to court. And, I'm well aware, I'm not saying that these services will solve everything. We will need judges. We will need judges to handle matters that can't be resolved. We'll need judges to handle emergency and urgent matters. And for those, Albertans can count on their judges and their court system to be available.
Thank you so much. And if I understood correctly, all of these services that you explained right now, they are free for Albertans who need access to them. It's covered by the budget, correctly?
Many of these services that we call pre-court services will be available to Albertans, and in many cases, Albertans are encouraged, and in some cases, they have to go through these processes. But we really want people to explore all of their options before going to court, and we want court to be a last resort.
Is it possible to ask from you the list of this? I'm not sure, is it some special lawyers having this, or it's some special other people who are dealing and trying to solve these things?
I think I know what you're going to ask me, and I will send you something so that you can also publish that and have that. So the family law justice, or the family justice strategy notes and the information that we currently offer, I can send that to you so that you can look at it and see in very detailed format what we offer, where it's offered, and what it does. And I do want to say one last thing. We introduced this program in Calgary and in Edmonton in December of 2023. We announced it in Red Deer and just unveiled it there as well. And we're moving to Grand Prairie as well. The service, the family justice strategy itself, in the year and 3 months or 2 months it's been ongoing, has served 52,000 Albertans. And the number of cases that actually get to court is significantly lower now than it was before the program started. So we can actually see that 52,000 Albertans have access to service, that the court family filings have gone down dramatically. And so with those two statistics in mind, we know that the program is working, and we know that it is effective beyond what we ever thought it would be. So again, very proud of this program. I think it's helping Albertans, and I'll continue to fund every program that I think is working well for the people of this great province.
Thank you for all of this initiative, and I want to be very honest with you. I would like to help as much as possible Ukrainians, and of course everyone who is watching our interviews right now. It might be just Albertans here, and that's why, to make it as practical as possible, if you have this list and this information to give to people, this is resources available for you, please just use it, because many resources are available, people simply don't know about them. So if we can take away these things, that here is the list, if you have this problem, you can go here, if you have that problem, you can go there, it would be really amazing. Okay, I have 2 questions left.
Okay.
So next questions. Not too long ago, Alberta was testing a new rehabilitation program for drug, alcohol addiction. What are the results, and will they continue implementing it?
Certainly. Thank you for that question. Look, every single life that we lose due to drug addiction, due to any type of addiction, is a real tragedy in our province. And we've looked at how we can help improve these things. I think we built, I think what you're referring to, and I'll just tell viewers, is our Made in Alberta recovery-oriented system of care. That was the program, that was the initiative that we announced in recently, and it was really a unique and different way of approaching substance addiction in this province. Here's the facts. 37% decrease between 2023 and 2024 in opioid-related fatalities here in Alberta. This is the greatest drop in the entire country. We know that Alberta has committed to building 11 recovery communities, which provide long-term addiction treatment capacities. We've added 10,000 addiction treatment spaces. We've opened 3 recovery communities, and we're expanding the virtual opioid dependency program so that people can get access to addiction treatment medication immediately. That'll allow people who are suffering from substance abuse to be able to access a mechanism where they can get medication, where they can get the help that they need and the advice immediately, and they can do it virtually as well.
Thank you so much.
We introduced something which I'm really excited about, because I'm working along with the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions on a compassionate intervention legislation. And this is going to be the first of its kind. What it is a program that is designed to identify people who are going through serious addictions and to take them and put them into a care facility, a treatment facility, to help them rehabilitate. Because we know that if we do nothing, we know that if we adopt the policies of other provinces, BC, for example, or even the NDP here in Alberta, who promote the concept of safe supply. Safe supply is the idea of giving people who are addicted to drugs a continued managed supply of drugs. We know that doesn't work. We know that what happens is that these people do not end their addictions. We know that they are reliant on these addictions. We know that this is a problem that will not go away with that concept. We've rejected that concept in Alberta. We will not provide government-funded drugs to addicts. We will provide them with care, we will provide them with compassion, and we will provide them with long-term treatment. And the idea here is that if we continue to do that, we will see continued success. Again, 37% decrease in drug-related fatalities between 2023 and 2024 using our program, which is the highest in Canada. And when we look at other provinces, tragically like BC, that's adopted a different idea, we know that they have abandoned and they're looking to things like what Alberta is doing. These are all important things. And I hope to God, I don't see this as a competition. We are happy to share our ideas with other provinces. We want people who live anywhere in Canada to be able to access these programs. And I'm proud of what we're doing, and I think that it's just going to get better. And my hope is that other provinces and other places in the world adopt our system and continue to offer that treatment to people who are addicted to substances.
Thank you so much, Minister. Thank you, first of all, for all the initiatives that you do. And you actually already answered my next questions about BC I wanted to ask you. And it was amazing interview, very interesting to talk with you. Unfortunately, we have limited time what we can put on our spot, but I think we should schedule the interviews more frequently, more often, because you answer something and I have more and more questions to clarify, not because I want to ask those questions, because I would like that people would know everything that this province has to offer to them, and that how many things you do to people to be able to help and support them. So now we have a couple of minutes left. Would you like to say some final words for my listeners, my viewers?
Most certainly. I do want to say a few words. I think that this interview has sort of outlined a lot of important issues in our communities, a lot of important questions about where we're going in Alberta justice. But some of your questions also included things that are happening in other ministries. And that is good news, because this government is working together with other ministries to make sure that things like addictions treatment doesn't just start and end in a single ministry. It may start in one ministry and it'll move all across the continuum, so that all ministries are involved, all ministries are working together, and we're all walking in the same direction when it comes to dealing with these important issues. I also want to say to you that I think that all of the issues that you've raised today are really important to Albertans, to the Ukrainian community, of course, to anybody who is willing to hear what we have to say. And I'll continue to do what I can to make sure that we spread the awareness and that we let people know what we're doing, because I truly believe that this is the greatest province in the country. It's the best place in the world to live. And all of these programs are proof of all of the things that this government is doing and is dedicated to making sure that Alberta is the best place to live.
Thank you so much, Minister.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and we'll talk again soon.
Sure. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.